Anytime I sit down and make a video, I ask myself, who is this for? The discussion I'm about to embark on, is it relevant? Is there even still a conversation being held about this aspect of the franchise? And if so, are my thoughts even unique enough for me to speak up? I always want to make sure that what I create for you, my audience, is something thought-provoking and entertaining. Sometimes I fail to meet those standards, and my videos are less than stellar, I admit. Sometimes I'm yelling at the clouds or fighting an imaginary battle that really has no merit to it. Maybe today's video is just that, but I know in my heart that it's something I need to talk about. And look, I know you've seen the title of the video, so before you go and write that comment saying, "Keep politics out of my Transformers," I wanted to let you know I have good news and bad news for you. The good news is there's so many pockets of the Transformers franchise that you get to choose what you consume and what you don't. Having free will and multiple options is fantastic, as art reflects our real world, but it can also be an escape from reality. The bad news is, I did not bring politics into Transformers, so you can't blame me. It's actually been there all along, both good and bad. So instead of writing a nasty comment before you've even watched the video, maybe stick around to the end and see why I feel the need to talk about the fact that Transformers has always been an immigration story. Obviously, there's no primary story to Transformers, as the franchise is reinventing itself every few years. The terminology of there being an original story, though, of course, points to the beginning with Generation 1. While the cartoon is known for its silly nature and its hilarious animation inconsistencies, there are moments in the show that speak truth and wisdom to its viewers, no matter how young or old they may be. So many memorable Optimus Prime quotes come from the Generation 1 cartoon, and for good reason. The show, at its core, is trying to teach its audience, mainly younger children upon its release, good morals. Of course, there are aspects to the show that have aged poorly, such as Carbombia, but someone else has already made a great video on that. Generation 1 doesn't tackle the concept of immigration head-on in too many meaningful ways, as most of the discussion of this topic is derived from human characters being nervous around the Transformers for a little while before accepting their help. Nothing too deep, but in Season 2, Episode 15, titled Megatron's Master Plan Part 1, the Decepticons disguise themselves as Autobots to commit crimes in a framing operation. And again, if you're saying keep politics out of Transformers, please watch this episode, as it opens up with a corrupt politician sabotaging his opponent after losing the electoral vote for mayorship. What about Megatron talking about Autobot propaganda? Or him bribing businessman Mr. Burger? Do you get my point? So, as the episode progresses, Megatron uses fake information to turn the people of Earth against the Autobots by framing them as villains. Obviously, because the Transformers are immigrants to Earth, people are naturally afraid, if not angry at them, for the lies they've been fed. Even some of the main cast of humans are called lousy Autobot lovers amongst the crowd of naysayers. This issue is so distressing that some of the Autobots start to resent the humans. It's misinformation like this about people who are different from us that causes such a breakdown in communication. Optimus eventually respects the decisions of the courts when he is told that the Autobots are banished from Earth. They are, after all, aliens. I really do suggest you watch these two episodes, as they're extremely relevant to this conversation. But you might recognize a section of the story from Michael Bay's Transformer films. The idea of the Autobots being forced to leave Earth was adapted in 2011's Dark of the Moon, and while it doesn't have much subtext to it other than a fake-out death, it is interesting to see the idea reused. More so, during the marketing phase of Age of Extinction, many posters and teasers were released showing us a glimpse of a world hell-bent on removing Transformers from Earth. This concept is used in the film and its sequel, but once again, there's really not much of a strong message here, mainly just imagery, which I might or might not have used for the thumbnail of this video. The IDW comics also touch on some of these aspects as well when Optimus Prime returns to Cybertron after the Civil War on Earth. I should say that this story, The Death of Optimus Prime, really tackles larger concepts such as racism and classism and so much more. Optimus has returned to his home. He's technically not an alien there, however, he's obviously no longer accepted by his people, as they want him and his Autobots gone. Later on in the final issue of the continuity, Optimus Prime number 25, we do return to this idea as Earth officials begin to discuss how best to handle remaining Cybertronians after Unicron's demise, alluding to the idea that G.I. Joe will be formed into a new branch of the military and essentially act as immigration police against Cybertronians. And then there's EarthSpeark, which I have to admit, I'm still not as well versed in, as I've watched most of Season 1, but haven't continued on after that. And so I thought it would be better to have somebody a little more experienced in that show than myself speak about it.
Transformers EarthSpeark gave us a setting that we never really see in Transformers, that being post-war but still on Earth. The Autobots and Decepticons are effectively trapped here. They're not able to return to Cybertron because they no longer know where Cybertron is. And even if they did return, Cybertron is dead. There's no one there, no energy, no hope, no life. The Autobots came to Earth aboard the Ark, hoping to find a home where they could at the very least be safe. And when they found a place that was willing to take them in, I'm sure they felt like this could have been the dawn of a new tomorrow. And yet, it wasn't. They were treated with respect for as long as the Decepticons were active threats. But even after the Decepticons were defeated by the Autobots are still treated as outsiders, assets of Ghost, assets that are kept on an incredibly tight leash. Bumblebee didn't want to be a warrior anymore, and to get out of soldier duty, he had to fake his own death. All the other Autobots are kept in a bunker, forced to be at constant drills and meetings, and only allowed to see the outside world when they are on official business. Optimus Prime does his best to keep a brave face around his soldiers, but you can tell this was not the life they wanted. And Megatron, who had forsaken the Decepticon cause in order to become an Autobot, he's forced to watch as his entire race is subjugated. Granted, at least the Autobots are able to go outside. The Decepticons are arrested and forced to spend the rest of their existence in a stockade. No trial, no reason, no discrimination. Soundwave and Starscream, who were far worse and far more malicious, are given the same exact punishment as characters like Tarantulas or Breakdown. Tarantulas and Breakdown, who, by the way, don't seem to have any type of animosity against humans and just want to live in peace. What's even more terrifying is the fact that if you do want to live on Earth and do not want to be either in prison or forced into active service, you have to be in hiding. That's why Tarantulas has spent years trapped away in a cemetery. It's because he just wants to live in peace. And Breakdown, his one crime was wanting to be a part of racing. And yet, when he was arrested, it wasn't in a dark alley. It wasn't while he was making some evil scheme. He was arrested at a public event, putting countless other drivers in danger because of Ghost's recklessness. Bumblebee blew his own cover just trying to save a Ghost agent that got too close. This is the reality of the Cybertronians, forced to live on Earth, but as guests, never fully accepted. Then there's the Terrans. The Terrans are effectively first-gen Earthlings. They are trying to find their own way on this planet, but they've been abandoned by both parts of their heritage. Earth doesn't want them because they're Cybertronians, but the Cybertronians can't fully accept them either because they're Earthlings. Twitch, especially, is desperate to know more about her ancestry on Cybertron. She has a second father in the form of Wheeljack, and Twitch is desperate to learn anything about where she came from or what her purpose is, why the Cybertronians are the way they are. but it's often met with, well, you can think about that when you're older, or don't worry about that, that's not part of your life. Sadly, that's the way all the Terrans are treated. They wind up trapped in this cycle where they want to learn more, but are turned away. Look at Jawbreaker. He desperately wants to be a Dinobot just like Grimlock, but he doesn't fully understand the trauma Grimlock's gone through, the trauma that Dino mode represents. And as a result, he comes off as somewhat uncaring at first just because no one filled him in on the troubles that Grimlock has. You have Nightshade, who wants to find their identity, and is eventually able to find it through the help of their buddy Tarantulas, but even that is met with sharp ridicule and confusion, not just within the universe, but even in our real world amongst the audience of EarthSpeark. The Terrans are experiencing emotions, sensations, and feelings that are perfectly natural for a human, perfectly natural for an Earthling, but is still alien for the Cybertronians. And the Cybertronians themselves are fish out of water, aliens in a very hostile world, a world that does not want them and will only accept them if they are willing to submit fully. Optimus Prime, RC, Bumblebee, Alita 1, Prowl, Grimlock, they all have to live under lock and key, or else they're going to be forced to leave. And even if they follow all the rules, there's no guarantee that they'll ever be safe here. And Megatron, who perhaps has it the worst of all, has to watch as the soldiers he once considered friends are forced to live in bondage, unable to even see the light of the sun anymore. And he has to realize, he has to live with the fact that he hasn't just betrayed Decepticon cause, he's betrayed some of his Cybertronian roots. Once the captive, he's now a captor. He has given his autonomy just to be a prison of a different type, a willing soldier of a war he doesn't want to fight. And yet if he ever lays down his arms, he's going to be joining the other Decepticons in that same stockade.
As you can tell from Ron's discussion with the show, there are many aspects of the Transformers somewhat being welcomed on Earth after their civil war, but still being treated as aliens, as if they are so completely different from humans. Now, of course, they look different. They're robots. They transform. They turn into vehicles. They're different in that regard, but they're still people. And still, to a degree, Earth and its leaders and many other normal people view the Transformers as immigrants, because they are. Alright, what is my point here? What is the end game goal of this video? I'm a guy who runs a channel about comic books and Transformers. Why on earth do I feel like I have any right to speak on immigration? Well, I'm not super equipped to talk about it, but I am equipped to talk about Transformers. And in almost every single continuity, the Transformers themselves are immigrants on Earth. Individuals who have fled a corrupt and collapsing society plagued by war, searching for a new home. Humanity isn't always quick to accept them, but for the most part, we get to enjoy a fiction where they ultimately are accepted into society. Optimus Prime himself tells us that freedom is the right of all sentient beings, and he truly believes that. So whether you're human, or Cybertronian, or something else entirely, this iconic hero will fight for your freedom, because no individual is illegal. All are free, and all are one. If Optimus Prime can stand up for those who are different than himself when he himself is an immigrant, should we not also do the same when people are being persecuted in our real-life, daily lives for simply being different? Maybe we can all do the right thing as Optimus Prime would do if he were here.